Behind the dazzling lights of the stage where charts, topping hits and flashing cameras dominate the spotlight, lie three names that seem forever intertwined in the rise to fame: Usher, the mentor who paved the way; Justin Bieber, the teenage prodigy turned global pop icon; and Sean Diddy Combs, the music mogul whose influence shaped an era of entertainment. But behind the handshakes and picture-perfect smiles, could there be a darker reality hidden in plain sight? As old clips resurface and cryptic remarks regain attention across social media, a storm of questions begins to take shape. Did Usher unknowingly guide Justin into a world that once scarred him? And what exactly was Diddy's role in those early years? Just a guiding figure, or something far more manipulative? What you're about to testify is not an accusation, nor a definitive verdict. It's a journey into the shadows of a long story buried under silence. And sometimes silence speaks louder than any headline. Watch until the end to uncover the truths few have dared to confront. Hints begin to spread. TikTok, where the curtain begins to lift, it all started like a thin layer of smoke, hazy, intangible, and difficult to grasp. But then short video clips, cryptic remarks, and odd glances lifted from old interviews and past TV appearances began reappearing on TikTok, this time seen through a very different lens. And when someone paused a frame exactly as Usher mentioned that he had once lived with Diddy for a while, the narrative was no longer just a harmless recollection from the past. TikTok users, many of whom fancied themselves part-time internet detectives, began to dig deeper. They clipped, zoomed, dissected every frame. Why was a teenage singer like Justin Bieber, only 14 or 15 years old at the time, frequently spotted at lavish late-night parties filled with adults, red wine, and dim lighting? Why was the young prodigy, hailed as a global pop phenomenon, repeatedly seen alongside Diddy, a music mogul known not just for his empire, but also for a lifestyle riddled with whispers and controversy? Clips that had long been forgotten suddenly resurfaced. One fleeting shot captured Justin stepping out of an SUV with Diddy late at night. Another, a dimly lit backstage scene where Usher said something quietly to Diddy as Justin stood nearby, forcing an awkward laugh. A blurry photo from a yacht showed all three together: Usher, Diddy, and Bieber, but Justin's eyes betrayed unease, his expression stiff, his posture unsure. Each piece of footage was re-examined, each facial expression scrutinized as if they were all fragments of a much bigger, more sinister puzzle. And perhaps most disturbing of all were not the images themselves, but the gaps between them, the missing context, the deafening silence. No one could say definitively that anything bad had happened. But no one could confidently claim that everything was normal either. What started as a TikTok trend quickly grew into something far more serious. Entertainment blogs joined the conversation. YouTube channels that specialized in deep dives into celebrity culture launched their own breakdowns. And then came the whispers from insiders, former staffers, industry veterans, some nodding subtly in the shadows, admitting that something strange definitely happened back then, but none daring to say more. Their silence only deepened the mystery. Of particular interest were old interviews with Usher himself, where he consistently dodged questions about his time living with Diddy. In one such appearance on a talk show, when asked what life was like with Diddy during his youth, Usher simply smiled and said, "I learned a lot. Some good things, and some things I'd rather not talk about." The comment, vague at the time, has now taken on a far darker tone in retrospect. TikTok had ignited the fire, but it didn't stop there. Online sleuths began mapping out the timeline, focusing in on the years between 2009 and 2012, when Justin was at the height of his teenage fame and Diddy still held immense sway over the music industry. The pressing question, had Justin truly been protected, as any young artist should be? Or had he been caught up in a system of power, privilege, and manipulation crafted by those far older and far more calculating? From these scattered moments emerged a blurry but haunting portrait. No legal accusations were made. No official documents surfaced. Yet the connections drawn between the clips, the cryptic statements, and the public's growing awareness of exploitation in the industry were enough to trigger a widespread wave of suspicion. even among traditional media outlets that typically stay away from rumor-based reporting. Then, at the center of the storm, Justin Bieber, after years of silence, finally spoke up. Through a spokesperson, he denied being a victim of Diddy. But notably, he did not dismiss the idea that something dark had occurred in the broader entertainment landscape. Instead, he stated clearly, "I'm not a victim, but I believe there are people who have been genuinely hurt. They deserve to be heard." That statement was a turning point. It was both a rejection and, in its own subtle way, an acknowledgement that something behind the scenes may not have been as innocent as it once seemed. And more than that, it was an invitation, a sign that much more lies beneath the surface. That behind the glossy magazine covers and red carpet smiles, there remain shadows untouched by light and stories the world has yet to uncover. Conspiracy theories and unverified claims, the puzzle pieces that won't quite fit as the digital whirlwind intensified. The video shifted into deep mode, assembling an eclectic mix of photos, old interviews, and backstage party footage like pieces of a dark jigsaw puzzle. There was a photo of Usher in conversation with Diddy under dramatic studio lights, an interview clip where young Justin joked nervously about late-night recording sessions with older stars, and grainy shots of lavish gatherings at private mansions and yachts, where the laughter was loud but the undercurrent felt uneasy. A hush descended over online conversations as creators began weaving a narrative. What if the so-called talent incubator that propelled Justin and other young stars to fame was also a meticulously crafted facade? Beneath the surface, skeptics urged, could lie a calculated power dynamic skillfully masked by mentor-mentee camaraderie and artistic development. Yet while the video painted a compelling picture, young Bieber stepping into exclusive events, Usher at the center of Diddy's circle, there remained a striking absence: no legal filings, no victim's testimony, no definitive confession from any of the parties. Usher never looked into the camera and said, "I was wronged." Justin did not accuse anyone on record. The pieces were dramatic, but their assembly relied heavily on insinuation rather than fact. Even the most compelling footage, Justin being escorted into a dimly lit mansion after midnight, Usher standing close to Diddy at backstage parties, offered no full context. Without dates, names of witnesses, or corroborating testimonies, each moment remained a tantalizing whisper, suggestive enough to unsettle, insufficient to convict. The effect was eerie. It's often the unseen, the silence, the missing explanations, that speaks the loudest. Viewers found themselves asking, was this environment really about nurturing creativity, or did it serve as a cultivated disguise for something less savory? The questions kept multiplying because no one had yet provided answers. These doubts swelled into the video's beating heart, a powerful prompt for the viewer to question authority, to dig deeper, to consider that fame and mentorship, however gleaming, can, at times, mask deeper vulnerabilities. But without verifiable evidence, the message hovered indefinitely between rumor and revelation, propelled by suggestion, yet anchored by uncertainty. In the end, the compelling theory remains just that, unverified. It's a digital age mystery constructed from fragmented visuals and unanswered questions, leaving us with a single, uneasy realization: sometimes conspiracy isn't about what we know, it's about what remains unsaid. Justin Bieber speaks out, breaking the silence, yet keeping his distance after a long period of silence amid a growing storm of allegations surrounding Sean Diddy Combs and the stars once associated with him. Justin Bieber finally spoke up. But his response was neither an accusation nor an outright denial of the conversation. It was something far more calculated. Speaking through his official representative, Justin confirmed one thing clearly: he is not a victim of Diddy. That statement, though brief and controlled, was enough to silence weeks of mounting speculation on TikTok and across media platforms. For days, the internet had been flooded with resurfaced clips, videos of Diddy boasting about spending 48 hours with a 15-year-old Justin, and another moment on national television where Diddy, sitting next to Justin, joked cryptically about things they shouldn't talk about. At the time, these moments may have been brushed off as typical showbiz eccentricity. But now, in the wake of serious allegations against Diddy, they've taken on a much more unsettling tone. What caught public attention even more than the denial itself, however, was how Justin framed it. He didn't shut down the conversation. In fact, he did not deny the potential existence of a toxic or inappropriate environment. Instead, he chose to express solidarity with the real victims. His representative emphasized that dragging Justin into the rumor mill only distracted from the real stories that mattered, those of actual survivors. "I am not a victim," Justin stated, "but I do believe there are people who were genuinely hurt. They deserve to be heard." Immediately, the public reaction split. Some praised him for his maturity for choosing to respond with empathy and focus rather than defensive emotion. Others felt he was playing it safe, strategically avoiding more specific or uncomfortable details. They accused him of saying just enough to clear his name without truly addressing the full weight of the situation. However, according to media strategist Chad Teixeira, this approach was far from evasive, it was smart. Justin waited until the legal system had gained traction, until the public was ready to listen instead of just react, Teixeira told the U.S. Sun. This wasn't damage control. It was narrative control. What Bieber did was redefine the moment. No longer a passive figure caught in someone else's storm, he positioned himself as someone aware, informed, and morally aligned with those seeking justice. He didn't center the story on himself, but he made it clear he wasn't ignoring it either. Major outlets like Reuters, People, and The Independent quickly picked up his statement, pointing out that while it wasn't groundbreaking in detail, it carried heavy symbolic weight. Bieber offered no confessions, no exposes, no shocking new claims. But every word he said and didn't say invited serious reflection. He was no longer just a former teen star caught in a viral theory. In that moment, he became a symbol of how one can acknowledge uncomfortable histories without fueling baseless speculation. His response, then, was not one of self-protection alone, it was a repositioning of himself, from passive participant to conscious adult, from rumor subject to moral witness. He didn't speak as a victim. He didn't speak for attention. He spoke to redirect the public focus toward the people whose pain is real and ongoing. This comes at a time when the allegations against Diddy are becoming more serious and more specific. Lawsuits and testimonies from figures like Cassie Ventura, Diddy's former partner, are painting a chilling picture of coercion, manipulation, and misconduct behind the scenes of the entertainment world. In this context, Justin Bieber's voice adds a layer of responsibility that many former associates have not yet embraced. He didn't give the internet what it wanted: sensationalism, drama, or confession. Instead, he gave what it needed: clarity, restraint, and a reminder that the loudest voices in this case should not be those of celebrities protecting their brands, but those of survivors seeking justice. His move was seen as a model for other public figures navigating similar scandals, not simply to deny and distance, but to acknowledge, empathize, and redirect. In an industry built on performance, image, and narrative, Justin Bieber's response was refreshingly grounded. He didn't try to erase his history. He simply clarified where he stands, and more importantly, where he doesn't. And in a world where silence can imply complicity, his few carefully chosen words may have said more than any viral video ever could. In the end, although no concrete evidence was presented in the video, the scattered clips, vague remarks, and long-forgotten footage were enough to ignite a deep wave of suspicion across social media. Viewers were pulled into a world where everything felt uncertain, where the line between mentorship and manipulation, between artistic growth and exploitation, blurred into something deeply unsettling. The most pressing question remains unanswered: what exactly happened between Usher, Justin Bieber, and Diddy during those pivotal years? Was their relationship truly one of professional support, or merely a polished facade for something far more troubling, something all three may now wish to leave behind? And if something was wrong, why has it taken so long for anyone to even hint at it, let alone speak out clearly? This isn't about placing blame or declaring guilt. Rather, it's a cautionary reminder to all of us: be critical of information that lacks verification, especially in an era where a few seconds of video can shape entire narratives. But just as importantly, don't dismiss the quiet voices, those who dare to break the silence, even if their words are incomplete, hesitant, or wrapped in ambiguity. Because often, it is within those small, fractured pieces that the truth begins to surface.